Are you afraid? What are you afraid of? Most of us, either we don't know or we don't take time to figure out why we're afraid of something. But we're all afraid of something, right? We got to figure out what it is that we're afraid of, and then we got to figure out what do we have to do to get over the fear. Sometimes we don't get over it, we just act because of it. We act in spite of it. So think about this today as you go about your day. If you're not getting the results that you want in a particular area, you hadn't reached kind of where you want to be, or you hadn't reached the goal that you want, look at, is it a fear that's keeping you from achieving this goal? And this is something that I'm working on because I have fears too, and even though we have fears, sometimes we could talk through it, right? We could talk through the fear, and we can kind of see that it doesn't make any sense. For example, one of the things that I deal with is cold calling, and I'm afraid to no, I'm afraid to call, talking to a complete stranger, and you're just afraid. For me, it's the rejection. But when you start thinking about it, they're regular people. Cold calling, you don't see the person, you might never meet the person, so it doesn't matter how they think or feel. It's just part of the process, right? It's part of what you have to do to be able to sell. And so when you think about it, okay, you're afraid of another human being who you're never going to see see again, or who you're never going to see. And then you start thinking, okay, if I call 200 people, 400 people, and I make X amount of dollars, then it helps me, right? Whereas if I don't call on that part of my business, I make zero. So you start thinking about, okay, does it really make sense? Of course, rejection, it's tough, right? We don't want to be rejected. We want people to accept us for who we are. We want people to accept us. And in this case, people don't even know us, right? We're interrupting them. They're doing something. They're busy. When you got to think about it, is you're offering them something that's going to change their life, that's going to help their lives be better. And so it's just getting out of our head, right? Getting out of our head that it's not gonna cause us any physical danger. We're not any type of danger at all, right? It's just our emotions will be hurt, right? And really, when you think about it, you might have one person out of 1,000 that will be rude to you. Everybody else they will understand. And so if you've ever sold before, you have a certain level of respect for people who sell, who do it right, with integrity. I'm not talking people who are like slimy. I'm not talking about that. But if you've sold before, you have a level of respect or if you've ever done cold calling, there's a certain level of respect that you have for people who cold call. And if you've achieved any level of success, if somebody cold calls you, you're typically nice, right? Because you understand that this person is selling a service or product to somebody to change their life, to make their life better. And so maybe they'll buy, maybe they won't, but you still, have a certain level of courtesy and respect for somebody who's selling. So when I thought about it, it doesn't really make any sense, right? Because the way I think about it is, if I call, the more I call, the better I get at calling, the more I sound better at calling, the more I feel, better calling. But not only that, but you start to see that, you might call, I don't know, 400 people, and in that 400 people, you'll close 5 sales, and the 5 sales is, more than what you would normally make doing something else, in 6 months. And so you start weighing it out. You start thinking about, okay, really, what is the root of the rejection? Is it that? And you got to be thinking about is the root of rejection. And then what are your beliefs? Like, do you believe that you have something to offer somebody that would help them? And so if you believe it, it's like an obligation, a responsibility, that if you have something that will help somebody else, that you are obligated to share it with somebody. And so you have to start talking things out. And so rejection, we don't want to have the bruised egos, but when you start thinking about it, you start thinking, okay, each time you call, you're going to be better. You can respond better because you're going to hear some of the same objections. You're going to feel better once you start to make money. You just figure that this is just part of the process. Just like any job, right? Especially if you're not that crazy about your job, you go through 2 weeks of working for someone. Hopefully, you're working the whole time, you're going over and beyond, and then you get rewarded with a paycheck. Hopefully it's what you want, But if you don't go through the 2 weeks and actually work every day, then you won't get a paycheck. And if you're not doing it well, or you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're not gonna get it long, right? But it's the reward after 2 weeks of work that you get the paycheck at the end. And so the same thing I had to tell myself with cold calling is that you cold call for 2 weeks and then you get, if you close 10 sales, it might be more than you would make in 6 months or a year. And so that's what kind of keeps you, for me, you kind of have to lay out the fear so that you can see that it doesn't make any sense to be afraid, or that it's okay to be afraid, but you still have to put the work in. You still have to do what you have to do. And so fear can be kind of crazy, so you have to lay it out and ration it out. You have to make sense of so to me, I was looking at what am I giving up when I'm afraid, because you don't get anything great if you don't act in spite of the fear. So the fear takes away the great things. The fear keeps you from your destiny. The fear keeps you from doing things that will put you on the other side of where you want to be, in a place where you want to be, where you can receive the rewards for your efforts. So fear will keep you stuck. It'll keep you like in your comfort zone, even though it's comfortable, it's less than your best. It's less than God's best for you. And so you have to, look at the fear and lay it out and say, okay, this is what I'm afraid of. And then you start saying, okay, why am I afraid? And then what am I giving up because I'm not acting because I'm afraid? And so you have to start thinking to yourself, okay, I'm afraid of what? Why am I afraid? What's the consequences? If I do this thing that I'm afraid of, how different can my life be? And not that it's going to be perfect, right? Because you'll have some obstacles, some challenges. But the thing is to use these things as feedback. You're looking at, okay, this failure as feedback. What went right? What didn't go so right? What do I need to change? How can I tweak it? Who do I know that's going through doing the same thing that I'm doing that might could help me overcome some of these challenges? And so it's good to join a mastermind because you can hear other people, how they overcome challenges. You can see how they how they handle fear, how they handle setbacks. And so none of us are immune, right? We're all going to have setbacks. We're always going to have things that we have to overcome. But when you are in a mastermind, people are at different levels, right? There are different spots in their lives, and they've learned things that we don't know. They help us think about things differently. So when we work alone, then we just have our blind spots. So many things we miss. But when we work with other people, they can see things in us, and they can help us to maneuver things that we might not be able to maneuver on our own, as well as ideas on things that we can try that we hadn't even thought about, right? Because we're just thinking about our small, our mind, what we think about, how we see things. And when you have a mastermind, 2 or more people, then you have the experience of other people, their life experience, their lessons, all the different things that they can share with you to help your life be better. So just something to be thinking about. And if you are serious about your success, if you're serious about changing and improving and facing your fear, then join us for the Growth Club. It's 4 classes, our weekly class on Thursday, 4 classes a month, $97. And you can come alongside other people who want to achieve a certain level of success, and we can all help each other.